All right. So our next presentation is about the utility conversion program. And it's just going to be a quick update on how the program's going and kind of the next steps. So if you haven't heard about the utility conversion program, the Mobile Home Park Utility Conversion Program, or MHP UCP, there was a pilot program started back in 2015. It was supposed to last 3 years. It was so popular, we extended it another 2 while we worked through a resolution to make a longer-term program. So there was a rulemaking initiated in 2018 to evaluate the pilot program and determine whether a new program should go forward, and if so, how would that look? And then in 2020, we got a decision, 200404, establishing the Mobile Home Park Utility Conversion Program. It used to be called the Utility Upgrade Program, but it's 2 dogs of the same color, you know. What this does, it allows the IOUs, the investor-owned utilities, the big utilities, to build new gas and new electric systems within mobile home park boundaries to replace the aging master meter structures. So the IOU works with the master meter operator to plan and build a new system. The IOUs take responsibility for the maintenance and the billing of that system. So all those master meter customers now become directly billed by the IOUs. That mobile home park drops off the CPUC, what we call the jurisdictional list. So it's no longer jurisdictional to our master meter inspection program, but because it's part of the IOU now, they absorb it into their distribution system. We still audit that distribution. So you won't get your 5-year inspections if your park is converted, but we do audits of those distribution systems every 3 to 4 years. And depending on what we see and what we audit, we may come into the park to look at the system. But we'd be looking at the IOU stuff and it's no longer a master meter system. The other thing is I don't have the exact numbers on it, but most of the construction costs are recoverable. So they're recoverable through rates. The utilities are paying what we call the to-the-meter construction. So everything between the main and the road to the meter. The MHPs are paying for the beyond-the-meter construction, but the beyond-the-meter construction is also recoverable. So that money comes back to whoever is funding. There's some costs that aren't, we'll talk a little bit about that. Since the pilot program started back in 2015, 2015 was kind of a slow year because it started halfway through 2015 and there was a lot of planning by the utilities to see which parks needed to get converted, but the IOUs have installed new gas service to 33,000 mobile home spaces and new electric to 31,000. The desperate numbers there are because there are some municipal electric areas in California. We don't have rate-making ability over them. We have no authority over them on the rate-making side, so we can't force them into the program. There have been some that have cooperated and put in new systems, but for the most part, the municipal utilities don't have the money to help out with this program. Most utilities will convert in the next phase of the program from now until about 2025. It's a 10-year program, but we broke it up into 2 phases. Most utilities will convert 13% of the spaces on the list, the spaces within their territory. And PG&E's doing less than that because for some reason their costs are much higher. But we anticipate another 32,000 spaces by the end of 2024, and then probably another 30,000 by the end of 2030. So all in all, we'll have almost 100,000 spaces converted by the end of 2030. So in 2021, we did an application process. If you were already on the pilot list, you automatically got rolled in as long as you hadn't been converted already. We get applications, we look at all the risk data that is given to us, and we risk rank the parks so that the riskiest parks get converted first. And there are many factors that go into that. but it's all about the utility infrastructure and the ability of a park to maintain that structure. PVC system is specifically risky. Yeah, so we looked at what the material is. Is it bare steel? Is it coated steel? Is it PVC? Is it PP? Is it bare steel that was put in before code? Rectified? Is it not? Are there anodes at all? We also look at, on the electric side, we look at there's a great many parts that are only 30 amp capacity. New code is 100 amp. We're looking on a new pilot program to actually put 200 places. But you have, a lot of new homes that are coming in have air conditioning on, a 30 amp system. You can't run about 1 or 2 air conditioning the whole lot. Right? There's a capacity issue. And air conditioning was one of the things we actually were specifically looking at. So parks that are in warmer climates we consider as a riskier utility because of the capacity issue. So we couple the capacity with the median temperature of the area. So a 30 amp park in Oceanside, California, is not as risky as a 30 amp park in 29 Palms, California, because 29 Palms is so hot. But just with the new list that we created or that we put together, there are over 1,500 parks on that list with over 170,000 spaces. It's a huge list. And with what we are authorized, how fast we're authorized to move through that, by the end of 2030, we will get everyone. So in 2025, we're going to reevaluate the program and look at extending it. And that happens. But it's such a popular program with all stakeholders that I don't see why we wouldn't extend it. But that's my opinion. So there were only, of those 1,500 parks, there were only about 250, 260 new applicants. And we have a new application period coming up in 2025. I don't think we're going to get 100 parks. I think, there's not a lot of people who are not in the pool already. Some parks are declining. They're saying, no, we don't want to be part of this program, which is fine. But most of the people who want to be part of the program are already on that list. In the few years since we closed the application period, I think I've heard from less than a dozen parks who didn't get their application in. And so I think everybody who's in is going to be in. The 2025 is not going to be a big year for us. But 588 of those parks are what we call Category 1, which are the riskiest parks. Category 1s are the ones we can estimate that within the first 5 years of the program, they'll be at least contacted by the utilities. Some of them will be converted immediately, but past that next application period, we really couldn't estimate who would be contacted, which means there's 970 Category 2 parks that we estimate will be part of the new, or part of the second phase after 2025. We're going to bring in new applicants, integrate them into the risk analysis, and have to reprioritize things. Some Category 2 parks may be contacted during this first phase, just because as the utilities move through, there are some parks that are declining once they understand the program a little bit. It's not a completely free program. Some parks, some owners are thinking, it's zero money, it's zero capital up front. It's not completely free. The mobile home park owners are financially responsible for permitting, and they're financially responsible for any environmental or cultural remediation that needs to be done. What that means is environmental remediation. If for some reason your park goes built on a landfill or a Superfund site, and they start digging and realize there's a lot of stuff that needs to get out of that soil before they can safely dig, that's a cost that the MHP owner is responsible for. We haven't seen that one yet. What we have seen is the cultural remediation, where you start digging and you find that you're on top of a grave site. Specifically in San Diego County, there's been a couple parks that have started digging and they realize they're on a native grave site. And so they have to bring in a cultural remediation specialist, which can be expensive. The other reason people are getting off the program or declining the program once they start is solar panels. There's some parks that have put up big solar arrays on their clubhouses or in their parking lots or things like that. And it works now with their system, but the new electric system is not compatible with it. And also, that lease is for the master meter system. That lease is through that operator, and that lease is not going to transfer over to the IOU. So that's just a circle that cannot be squared. So I would suggest if you're thinking about doing solar, you wait a little bit and see if you can do it a little later after the conversion. But the utilities are working through the list in approximate order, and with people dropping off the list, that means some of those, what we call the high category 2 parks, which are just below the category 1-2 line, will probably be contacted, but it'll still be in 2024 that they'll be contacted. This is a long-term program. It's authorized to run to the end of 2030. So I want to talk about some of the common risks, because we do see a lot of people after the category 1 and 2 definitions came out and people realized they weren't in the category 1. We had a lot of applicants who tried to appeal those decisions, and their appeals went like this. We're a medium-sized park. We have less than 100 amp capacity. We have very old pipelines. Things leak pretty regularly. And unfortunately, it is an unfortunate situation, and it is, a fairly unsafe situation, but it's also not unique, unfortunately. They're not in good company, but they're in large company. 75% of all of our applicants have less than 100 amp capacity at their park, and 62% of all our applicants have gas systems installed before the code. And those are just the ones that we know about. There's an extra 20% on the gas side. They don't know when their pipes went in the ground. So it's an unknown date, which either means they have bad records or it happened so far in the past, nobody remembers. There are a handful of systems that have, a handful of parks that have 100-year-old gas systems. Yeah, there are gas systems that were put in the 20s. There are a few more that were put in the 30s. But the median year of install is 1964. So there's half of all parks were put in 1964 or before. Master meter operators were not allowed to install anything after 97. Or I should say there were no new master meters after 97. You can still install things now, obviously, if you're a current master meter. But new parks being built will not be master metered, and that hasn't happened since 97. So the newest system, the newest original system is still, 20, 25 years old. If you do want to appeal your place in the line, your place in the queue, GSRB, the gas safety and reliability branch that I work for, we are authorized to reprioritize that list due to natural disasters or large-scale catastrophes. This language was put in the new decision because of the Paradise and Sonoma wildfires. Those swept through and damaged quite a few mobile home parks that were slated to be converted, but were much farther down the list. And because of the old pilot decision, we weren't allowed to move them. We had no mechanism to do that. Luckily, with the ones in Paradise, there was already a Butte County rebuild going on. We were able to put them into that program. But we fought really hard to get this language in the new decision to make sure that any other parks affected by wildfire, we could move up to the top of the list and rebuild them when the owner was ready to rebuild. We made it vague enough that we thought about wildfire specifically, but we made it vague enough language so that it would also encompass landslides, earthquakes, things like that. We also put large-scale catastrophes And what we were thinking there is things like train wrecks or something that affects a huge area, maybe even a natural pipe explosion on a pipe that's not yours. Something like the Fresno incident where, the fire that came out of the large transmission pipe in the sheriff's shooting range. Anyway, GSRB, we are not authorized to reprioritize any parks due to system failures, financial considerations, or readiness. So people who call me or email me saying, hey, we're a big company, we have a lot of parks, we're ready to move right now, we have all the funding in place, I can't move you to the front of the line. That's just not how this system works. The system is risk-based for a reason. We will look at updated information. Every once in a while, you get a new owner coming in and they say, hey, I'd like to look at the form of intent, the application. We can share that with you. And they say, they filled out a lot of things on here that aren't true. I know we don't have a 50-amp system. I know we have a 30-amp system. We found records saying, they didn't know when the pipes came in. We know when the pipes came in. We have records showing that. So we're absolutely willing to look at new FOIs and new information. As long as that information is correct, we will reprioritize a park with new information. It gives us a better look at the risks on the system, and that's what we want to do. However, if you give false information and the utilities come in and start digging and realize that you've given false information, you can be kicked off of the program. We're trying to have everybody work in good faith. So, the best way to appeal, if you would like to appeal, is to email your concern to MHP Utility Upgrade Program at cpuc.ca.gov. The program is administered by myself and one other engineer. We get a lot of appeals. We're working through them as quick as possible. Please provide all the information you believe is relevant. You can provide supplemental information, records, logs, letters. We'll read all of it. We'll consider all of it. Some of it may not be relevant to what we want to look at, but we will read and consider all of it. And again, we have a backlog we are working through, so please be patient. We will have another application period. That's at the beginning of 2025. Again, the decision requires that application period at the midpoint of this 10-year program. Once we get applications in, we will reprioritize everybody. We'll integrate those new applications into the already the existing list. Don't think there's going to be a lot of new applications. I don't think there's going to be a lot of change to the existing list, but we are ordered to do that by the decision. And then we'll throw out those categorizations. After the new application period, if you're a category 2, what that means is we do not expect that you will be converted by the end of 2030. And if this program isn't extended, it sunsets at 2030. So there is a reevaluation time span. We're going to start looking at the program in 2025 to determine if we want to extend it or change it in any significant way. So there is a mechanism to look and extend it. And if I was a betting man, I would bet we would extend it. But again, that's my opinion. Hopefully we extend it. It's a great program. It's very popular and it's doing a lot of good stuff. So any questions on any of that? So it's refunded. It's funded through rate recovery. So there's multiple countries put into gas and electric rates on the IOUs, and that helps. It's rolled into what we call the general rate case, and the general rate cases are for the next 10, 20 years. So they're funding that. All customers of that IOU, which is one reason those IOUs are working within their territories. Yeah. But we, back when the pilot program came along, we looked at the cost effectiveness of it and the safety and just getting new systems into, like I said, 177,000 homes is a good use of that money to increase the safety and visibility on those people. All right. Any questions? Okay. All right. Thanks so much. I'm gonna stop the slide.